Happy New Year. Thanks for coming to the first meeting of 2020. We're gonna agenda review and discussion. Do you have anything to add?
I just asked for one switch, maybe to move the school resource officer update discussion up to the first discussion item,
Okay,
since we have some guests here.
perfect.
You may not want to stay for the entire agenda.
What do you mean? It's fascinating.
Fascinating.
All right. Minutes of December 2nd.
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Someone a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Privilege of the floor, number 1. Not yet. Not yet, Chief. We'll tell you. Anything to say? All right. Well then, principal's report.
Well, as Mahatma Gandhi says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others. And on Friday, December 6th, here at Plymouth Elementary School, was a beautiful day of learning and participating in community service. K-8, by the way, I think you asked that, and I think that was a really good suggestion. And we took that on. Starting with our 5th graders, they gathered their wreaths and walked the halls of our school on the way downtown to put the wreaths across America for all of our veterans. They leave a wreath right at Town Hall at the Veterans Memorial, and then they go over to the Doug DeCenzo Bridge, which is a beautiful moment for us. So that started us off, and then from there we went, it was like a workshop here, like sewing machines were humming, and people were like whistling, and breads were being baked, and people were going out and they helped Operation Santa Claus. And so it was a beautiful thing. And then at the very end, we have hot cocoa, and then they debrief and talk about the whole process. So it's a great opportunity for kids to understand that it actually is better to give than to receive. So it's good stuff. We had a great Jingle Bell Run and pancake breakfast that helps to sponsor winter program. Thank you especially to Sarah Sanborn, who organizes the run, and to Brian Sheehan, who organizes the breakfast. And thank you to all of the helpers and participants. We had great weather, and it was great. So, and speaking of winter program, we have been on the slopes 2 times with our elementary students, and we're starting this Wednesday, K-8. And so just a huge thank you to Beth Wilkie and to Amy McKenney, who coordinate this mammoth organization, major program for us. I'd like to do a gratitude blast, again, to Mr. Sheehan and a group that we have called YALTA, Youth Leadership Through Adventure, a student-led program and leadership development model. They organized a full moon hike at Glove Hollow for 5th and 6th graders, which was absolutely lovely. We had about 25 students. They hopped on the hayride. They learned some history about Plymouth from Mr. Ahern and a lot about science. But mostly they just had a lot of fun howling at the moon, literally. Again, thank you to Sarah Sanborn, Lori Cleary, Geneva Sambor and her puppy Belma, and to Josh Furbish, and of course to Mr. Ahern, who opened up his beautiful tree farm to our students. And the YALTA students are 8th graders who organize it, and they took care of the 5th and 6th graders. So it was a great model, I think, that was just very cool. We had a holiday concert. Kindergarten through grade 3 was such a lift. The students sang with gusto and to, of course, a packed audience. Mr. Stevens is just such a joyful director. He's out there with his guitar, and I think he just makes it a really festive time for everybody. I also want to say thank you to the classroom teachers for their dedication and their support. They were all there. In addition to the concert, we did grade 5 caroling. I think the SAU office had some carolers. 7th grade went to Boston to see some plays of short stories that they've read. Middle school, and again, student-led, did a spirit week that was very successful. And then last but not least, we celebrated a very special lady from our kitchen, Janet King, who's been with us for 23 years in the lunchroom, has decided to retire. Everybody pulled together. It's the last day before vacation, lots going on, but this was mammoth. Students wrote messages, they created art, and then everyone received a cupcake. Everyone.
But did not have to bake.
Right. We all did. She just clearly loves our students. She loves our school. I've already seen her back here. So we would like to thank her for 23 years of going above and beyond for the community, and really wish her well. She promises to come back to visit, and she has, so that's great. January 8th, this Wednesday, we have our winter concert at 6:30 for students grades 4 through 8. We're also...
Is it Thursday?
Did I say? Thursday.
Okay. I was like, phew. I know. I was like, oh my God.
Sorry
All the
about
parents
that.
freak out.
Thank you. And then the winter program, we do have Wednesday.
Yeah.
January 8th, 15th, and 22nd. We have no school on Monday, January 20th, in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. January 24th, we have a snowball dance here for the middle school. And as we talked about last time, February 11th, we have the presidential primary, and so we have no school.
Thank you.
So last year, back in December, we hadn't started our winter sports yet. So now we're in full swing, which is, it's great, it's fun. So just some quick updates on each of the teams. The 7th and 8th grade boys basketball team, they're playing really strong. They're off to a 5-1 record. Coach George is doing a great job of blending the playing time of 18 students on the basketball team. So that's been fun. 7th and 8th grade girls are also playing hard. They have a 4-2 record. And Coach Brickley and Coach Duggan are constantly reporting the daily improvements that they're seeing coming out of those girls as well. And they're really starting to come together as a team. Our 5th and 6th grade basketball teams are also demonstrating a lot more consistent play. Coach Duchette and Coach Burdette are really doing a great job of teaching the young players the skills and the work efforts and ethic that they're going to need to keep moving forward. The boys team stands at 2-3. They lost one game postponed because of weather, and they'll make that up later in January. And the girls team is currently 5-1. Then we've got our wrestlers. They opened their season right next door at Plymouth High School versus Mascoma back on December 11th. A lot of matches the kids did. They had a total of 19 matches, won 16 of them, and all 16 were done by a pin. So that's pretty impressive from our kids on their first match of the year. They went on to wrestle at Exeter with multiple matches with Exeter, Stratham, and Portsmouth. And then they went to the PJ Sora tournament in Londonderry on December 22nd. That was really the first tournament for the kids. So we had Felix Natoli placed 4th in his weight class. Aiden Patridge, Ben Valenti both had 3rd place finishes. Jack Witcher was 2nd, and Emmett Nosman took 1st overall for his class. And then the kids will compete again this Wednesday versus Winnisquam, and again next door with the high school wrestlers, so that'll be good. And our Nordic skiers finally took to the trails this past Saturday. They were over at the Sandwich Fairgrounds. Conditions were a bit rainy on Saturday, but races went on. The girls team took 2nd place overall as a team. They were led by Addie England, who finished 2nd overall. And then following behind were Ellie England, Annie Flynn, Emma Smith, Claire Gervais, Kelsey Main, and Leah Basson also finished strong. A lot of those girls were only 1 minute apart from each other, so they're pushing each other, which is nice. And then on the boys' side, they finished 3rd place. Nathaniel Gervais was the top scorer for us there. He took 2nd overall. Leo Ebner, Paul Mason, Maddox Elaine, Zealand Stockloza, Colin Lane, and Connor Heidenreich finished out the scoring for the team so that they could finish in that 3rd spot. So again, good showing for that first race of the season. They will travel tomorrow over to Green Woodlands, which is in Dorchester. And again, the coaching staff there, Coach Ebner and England. I've got 24 skiers out there, all ranging in various abilities and experiences, and they're just doing a great job. So we just keep hoping the snow falls for them. In terms of safety committee, excuse me, we had a meeting before the holiday break, just as a quick review of the Homeland tabletop report that came back in. And then we also discussed the DOE state inspection that took place back on December 11th. So we had Marjorie Schumacher from the DOE came in, did a full building walkthrough with myself, Mrs. Flynn, John Francis, Amy Ulrichsen, and Gary Miller. And Amy, that's right. Went room through room and peeking in closets and in the kitchen and all over the place, doing that fire and safety inspection. She was really impressed by our building, by the care, the safety, and the health components that were already in place. So, of course, there was always minor little things that were noted, and we actually have a lot that have to be taken care of by Wednesday. Julie and Gary mostly have done a great job walking through the building a lot of the mornings. We got the word out to a lot of our staff, and it was simple things like a personal rug that wasn't meeting safety code that needed to be removed, or a personal lamp, or things like that. So it was really nothing major, maybe moving some furniture, making sure that all of the egresses were open, no cloth on bulletin boards, things like that. So really simple, quick fixes. And so everybody's done a great job. Teachers are really complying with that. And then the nice thing is we asked Marjorie and invited her to come back to us in February and talk with our staff at a faculty meeting in February. So we're looking forward to that. They get their opportunity to ask questions as well. And then we provided her with fire inspection, health inspection, our emergency management plans, playground inspections, all of those pieces were submitted. So, yeah, so it was a good day. It was a long visit, but it was worthwhile, and yeah, we did well.
Perfect. So I'm just going to pass out the enrollment. Sorry.
Thank you. Claims and payroll, everybody sign off on that. Okay. Is there any, excuse me, correspondence? No? Okay. Well, welcome to Chief LaFlave and Officer Carroll. Please, take the floor. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks. I'll just start off by saying I have, I've got nothing but positive feedback regarding the school resource officer, whether it's from parents, the administration here, the administration at the high school, the superintendent's office. We're always in constant communication about, how to better things, whatever. But it's been nothing but positive feedback that I've got. And I know there's some question like, what does Jill do? And she'll get into that in a minute. But before we do that, I would be curious to hear what the board has heard from other people out there. Have you heard anything positive, negative, anything about the school resource position, school resource officer?
All positive.
Yeah.
Yep.
All positive, good.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, things are going real well. To start off, we've always had a good relationship with both schools and the superintendent's office, so things are going real well. With that, I will let Jill explain what she actually does, and you can feel free to fire out any questions you guys have at her. This is great.
So I'll just list off, I made a list of a couple of things that I do. Truancy issues, residency issues, welfare checks, attendance issues for our warning list, mental health issues, bullying issues, mental health. Just look at my list. Criminal reports, helping with students that have escalated in their behaviors that might turn bad. Then also I work very closely with administration. We have weekly meetings that we meet with. But most importantly, positive interactions with the students. That's what I need to build our relationships. And it's great. I came back from vacation and the students were in the hallway. Hi, Officer Carroll, how's it going? And that's what's important to me, is those interactions.
We're already starting to, meaning Jill, we're already starting to experience students who would rather come to Jill than go speak to a teacher or somebody else, which is great because she's fostering those relationships with the kids already, which is exactly what we wanted to do. So,
Yeah, and I just, her calm presence in our building, it brings an orderliness. I mean, I've been here 12 years, and this, I can't believe how much help Jill has brought to our school. I wasn't expecting it, because we do have a lot of complicated issues, and it's so nice. Kelly and I would work on that, and to have Jill right here has been a tremendous issue on some really significant cases, so we appreciate that. But I also have to say that there Jill is, sitting down with kindergartners, having lunch on a regular basis. She's just done a lot, and the other piece, I'm always harping on our mantra: be safe, be respectful, be responsible, be your you. And she just brings that to life for us. So she's been a huge asset for us.
And I think also she just serves as another great resource, not only to us, but I think even to our parents, outside of the building. When she is going and doing some wellness checks and she's checking in on students and families, I think your relationships there are developing well too, and just allowing people to understand that there are more resources and help out there for them. And whether they're hearing it from us or from Jill, it's just good communication and kind of brings that circle, right around. So,
Thank you.
you're gonna let her off that easy? Jeez. Okay, well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
thank you both.
Okay. Draft 2 of the budget.
So we reviewed draft 1 last month, and one change was asked to remove one of the positions from the 1100 account. And you voted to move forward with a reading specialist, possibly on the warrant articles. So I was going to see if there's any other changes that you wanted to the operating budget before we move forward with it to the hearing, unless you want to vote on budget 2. So.
I know that we spoke about what is it called? About the Chromebooks.
Yeah, so there's a
blank.
platform that
What is-
Julie and I spoke
Donor
about.
Choose.
What's it? Donors Choose, that we're going to try to raise some funds through Donors Choose to offset some of the costs. It's just not a guarantee if we can get that, but if we can, then we'll certainly try.
And we still have to budget for the
Yeah.
Correct.
expenditure.
Yeah.
Right.
We receive revenue.
There is a time frame on the revenues that can be updated in September before tax rates are set. So if any work is done over the next 8 to 10 months on that, we can certainly reduce the tax impact of the expenditure.
Did you want to bring up your point?
Should I bring it up now
Well, we
or
can
during
do
the
it during-
warrant articles?
Oh,
That's right.
yeah, okay. All right. Good deal. Does anyone have any questions about the draft 2? Okay. And the draft warrant articles.
Did you want to vote to move the draft 2 to the budget hearing?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Could someone make
I
a
guess before we
motion?
get to that, can I ask a question as I think about things?
Yeah.
So, like, we took that 1100 position, right? So, right now, we have 31 kids in 2nd grade. I know no one can predict the future, but as they move forward, what happens if we go back to having 45 or 50 kids in each? I guess we'll go back and...
It's funny you asked that, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this isn't the right time to ask that question.
No,
Right.
so I think we can move to that question
Yeah.
because the budget kind of coincides with the warrant articles anyways. So the question is, do you have the funds in there to add an additional teacher within the operating budget? No, not at this point, if there were to be an increase in students. In the warrant articles, you have voted to move a reading specialist into Article 5, so I passed out the draft to you. You could play with that language if there was a priority to move to an additional classroom. You could just put a teacher in there, and then whatever's best for the school you can move forward with. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility on that piece, so it's up to you as far as what you want to do with that. But this is just a draft, so absolutely, it's just for something for you to look at, so we know what to bring for the hearing next month. But definitely that's something you can discuss.
And a warrant article would require, if it passes, would require us to spend the money on either a teacher or a reading specialist. That position would be held.
It would be,
Correct.
yeah,
It would be a
just
third.
any type of
Yep.
teacher you can,
Yep.
it would, am I speaking
Is that
correctly on
right,
that?
Dan?
Yeah,
You have the-
obviously it depends on what the warrant article says.
Yep.
You know, right now, the warrant article that is on the draft form is clearly reading specialist only. You could amend it in a variety of ways to make it a teacher, to be determined by the board, a position, you know, it really depends on the exact words that are created or written. It's what's called a special warrant article, so the use has to be defined within the language of the article and then stuck to. It's not like the contingency fund. There's a small warrant article for $1,000 contingency fund that just gets added to the bottom line, whatever the board determines to use it for.
Yeah.
The other piece you can do is not put it on the warrant article and put the position back in the operating budget and keep it optional. I mean, those are your two.
What would be the downside to putting it in the budget if we just say budgeted like we did before for 3? I mean, we did that last year, budgeted for 3 sections and then
Didn't fill
didn't
it.
fill it. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a downside, it would just be the the piece in what the intent of the position is. So you'd have your reading specialist, piece or the additional classroom teacher, so it wouldn't be clear. That's the downside to just putting it in.
And if it's in the regular budget, if we need it somewhere else, then we can, like this year, we had to use those particular funds for special education costs.
they were watched.
So they were not taken, but, I mean,
Right.
used,
Yeah.
reallocated. So that's the downfall too, is that if,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, if we don't earmark
Earmark
that
it.
funds for that specifically, then it could be taken somewhere else. So. I think it makes sense to,
To not make that so specific.
yes,
Yeah.
to not make
too.
in case there's an influx,
Mm-hmm.
to take Article number 5 and rewrite the wording so that we can use it for this or this.
Yeah, I mean, just logistically, if you put it to a general teacher, you can do a later hire to see what you actually need. Because typically we would, if it was a reading specialist, we'd post in April and get someone for the next year, but we'd hold off on it to see what the
To
needs
see
were.
what the need was.
So are you guys saying keep it as a warrant article, but make it a little bit more flexible, or put it back in the budget?
Keep it as
Keep
a
it as
warrant
a
article
warrant article.
and make it more discretionary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we had this instance 3 years ago in the 3rd grade where we had a huge influx of kids, 2 weeks before? Yeah, and wound up with huge classes for the year, and I know there were issues with that, so I'd rather not. And we had a reading specialist then, too, who, to my recollection, spent a lot of time in the 3rd grade helping out, so she really wasn't as accessible as she would be normally. So I'd move that we rewrite this to make it more discretionary.
Do you want
So,
I have this possibility of some language if you want to hear it. This is
Absolutely.
What I'm going to read you is an article that was on a warrant for a different school district just this past spring. And rather than the article being titled "Reading Specialist," it was titled, "Hire an Additional Teacher." And the language was to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of X dollars for the purpose of having the flexibility in the 1100 account of hiring a regular education teacher if the school board considers it necessary. Now, you could leave it plain like that because a reading specialist is a teacher, or you could add in the words a regular education teacher or reading specialist at the discretion of the board, something to that effect. But I think it's a very doable and common type of article to see on a warrant.
I like.
Flexibility to hire an extra teacher or reading specialist as the board deems necessary.
If the board considers it necessary.
I like that better.
I like that too.
What do you guys think?
He did.
Yeah. Yeah,
Teacher.
Teacher or.
Teacher or reading specialist if the
Okay.
board considers it necessary?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we still have the question of the budget at hand?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Move forward with the vote.
So I would move that we move the budget as proposed, draft 2, to the budget hearing.
Someone
Second.
wanna- Did you hear that? Kelly, second that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, good deal.
Now we need-
And then we
now
have
move
to-
on to the warrant.
Yep.
Warrant articles.
So with the other warrants articles, Article 1 is something every year that is just part of the process. Article 2 is what you've had in the past is a contingency fund for $1,000, which is just used for flexibility if it's needed. Article 3 talks about the security upgrades that we talked about replacing this security camera system that we've been having some trouble with. We do have a grant, so this reads to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $106,500 for the purpose of security upgrades to the building, $85,200 to come from the Public School Infrastructure Fund, which is the grant, and then $21,300 would come from taxation. So most of that is covered through grant.
Do you think we should specify what upgrades are gonna be happening? Is
I
that,
would recommend against it.
okay,
I think anytime you get into the concept of security,
Yeah.
blander is better.
okay, that
Personally,
makes sense.
that's my
Yeah.
assessment of it.
And language in warrant article can be binding.
Okay,
If
that
you're
makes
too
sense.
specific and you decide to change
Okay,
something down the road and the language was
Right.
specific in the warrant, you're held to it.
oh, okay, thank you. Comes with learning.
Well,
Thank you.
Good to discuss.
Article 4 is, so for the past few months, we've been talking about the energy audit.
Right.
And reviewing that and moving forward with some of those pieces. So this is based on what you voted on last month, and that is to see if the school district will vote to authorize the school board to enter into a 10-year lease agreement in the amount of $324,445 for the purpose of leasing energy conservation systems and to raise an appropriate $5,172 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause.
Yeah, if I could just jump in for 1 second, to be clear, the $5,000 isn't the complete first-year payment. It'd be hard to pay off that much money in 10 years, $5,000 a year. What it is the additional cost beyond the savings in energy. The project would take place over the summer, so the energy savings will be realized by the time school opened up there on approximately September 1st. But the full cost of the energy usage without these conservation measures is in your budget in case this article fails. So there'd be less energy usage than is in the operating budget if this article went, and if the project moved forward, but you take the cost of those energy savings plus the $5,000, that's your first year's payment on the project.
Okay.
Article, any questions on that?
My only concern is that if the public has questions about this in hearing, would John Francis be available?
I can have John Francis
Well-
and Dan will be here as well to talk about,
As
yeah.
long as someone
Yep.
can address
Yep.
the structure of the payments, that's fine.
So the payments will then get rolled into the subsequent year's budgets?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, so in the subsequent years, you'd see a significant reduction in the energy expenses for oil, electricity, what have you.
Okay.
And then you'd see a new line for debt service or for lease payment.
Thank you.
Article 5 would be the teaching position that we had talked about, so we'll adjust that language. I would recommend keeping the same amount, so the $74,805 includes, if you're hiring a reading specialist, it's a master's degree teacher, so we just went with a master's +2 as kind of a baseline plus a 2-person insurance, just to, so that's the total cost of that. Article 6 is the operating budget, so that's just the bottom line of the budget you just voted on. And the only other piece to consider, if you want to discuss it tonight, is there's from privilege of the floor, a couple of times we've had requests for a capital reserve account. So that's something I don't know if you want to discuss or not.
We have drawn significantly off, I forget what the state of our capital reserves are. It's not in the budget, is it?
No.
I know we have drawn off them significantly in years past. and
Partitions and stuff, yeah.
Had planned to at least create the option for the town to set some money aside there. Recognizing that we will have, I believe the roof recode is a 10-year maintenance issue. That's one thing we should budget for. I'm not aware that we have a capital improvement plan for the school, do we?
We went over it a couple
Did-
months ago, the
okay.
capital improvement plan. Some of it includes the security upgrades that you're addressing, as well as the energy audit.
Yeah.
There are some other pieces in there as well. that you can-
In years past, we've also drawn off the capital reserves for replacing the movable walls in classrooms without any.
I can give you the balance if you'd like.
Sure.
All right. So as of June 30th, 2019, the previous fiscal year end, there was $6,717 left in the building maintenance capital reserve account. $55,000 used last year for the portable wall project, and then the project this year was just pays out of taxation. There wasn't money in the reserve.
Right. No?
Is that not a lot?
Yeah, there's not a lot
Right,
left.
there's not a lot left.
So what are you proposing for, I guess, a yearly contribution to a cap reserve fund? What's customary? Do we just set what we want to put in, or if we want to put any in? Or
That's what I was gonna ask.
There's a few different
$10,000?
options. I think Dan can review some with any
Okay.
leftover funds, and then
Yeah,
some
so-
with
A fairly-
putting money aside.
A fairly common article is fund balance being dedicated into a capital reserve, so you're not raising new taxation, but if things change over the course of the year, you have fund balance left over. You can say, for example, up to 50,000, whatever the number is, would go into the building maintenance capital reserve account, and that way, if there's only a $35,000 fund balance, it all goes in, and if there's a $60,000 fund balance, first 50, if you will, goes into that, and then what's left over after that becomes the fund balance that's used to lower taxes in the following year.
So I would move that we include a warrant to allocate up to $50,000 of potential unreserved funds to a capital reserve account.
Sure.
Is that clear enough?
Can we
What's the-
specify? So you have two established capital reserve accounts, okay? You have the building maintenance one we just talked about that has about $6,700 left in it, and there's a special education fund that doesn't have anything in it. If you wanted a new capital reserve account, you'd have to have a vote of the public to establish it first.
I would like to amend my motion to specify the building capital reserve.
Building maintenance capital reserve fund? Perfect, yeah, so up to $50,000 of fund balance available on July 1 will go into the building maintenance capital, we'll add that article.
If there is an unreserved fund balance,
Yeah.
and if
Right.
not, it won't be contributed to.
Right, yep. Technical question for the board to contemplate. The order that these are in, stick with that. Add this one between, this new one that Phil just, actually, jumping ahead because
No,
you haven't had a
that's fine.
second and a vote.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
you made a motion.
There was a motion.
There was a motion.
I would second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Do you want it just between the teaching position and the operating budget's typically the last article, so just add it to the bottom of the list?
That would be my
Okay.
recommendation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Move operating budget to Article 6 and add.
7. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, as 7, and then we'll
Yeah.
add it as a
Yep.
6.
Got it.
Okay, to. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have those for you.
Do we have to vote on these drafts of these warrant articles? Yeah?
I think they're going to redraft
Yes.
them, right?
Okay.
I would move the suite of amendments as drafted be put forward to the voters, or to the.
Except for
public
Article
hearing.
5.
Right.
Yeah, we need to amend.
With the,
We have to amend
with
it.
the amendments as
Yeah.
discussed.
Someone will second that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business?
We have one other piece we have our audit report from last year that Dan's just going to review quickly.
Thank you.
Copies for everybody?
What's that?
Copies for everybody?
I do not have copies
I'm
for everybody. This is your draft of your audit report. This is summary, that no findings, no misrepresentations. That's what we call a clean audit. And so all I would ask is that you accept those findings and authorize execution of the management representation letter, which is us telling, so that there's 3 signatures that go on this document: the business, myself, the superintendent, and then the school board chair. And we're just representing to the audit firm that you've been truthful in disclosures. But we'll keep it electronically. If anyone wants a draft copy, you're more than welcome to have it.
Okay. Good deal.
So
Oh,
it's good to begin.
So moved. You need,
Just authorize the execution of the management representation letter, please.
I make a motion to authorize.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. I never know. I'm like, do we have to make a motion on this?
Move everything. Move it all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Everybody. All right, good deal. Thank you.
The last piece is just a reminder that the budget hearing
Oh, yeah.
is the 3rd, or I'm sorry, February 3rd at 6 we'll have the board meeting, and at 7 is the budget hearing. So just wanted to remind you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want me to sign that?
I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. Super. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor, number 2. Hi.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you for all the work that you do on this board. Question as to my last tax bill. I went to the high school a while ago, and they said it was the elementary school that went way up high. And I'm just wondering what exactly happened to cause, because it went up quite a bit. And I have no idea what caused it.
I don't have that documentation on me, but I can pull it together. So I would suggest to you that it's both schools that contributed to the tax rate change in Plymouth.
Yeah, but they did say that mostly it was because of something that happened at the elementary school.
So there have been a couple of changes at the elementary school. One of the most significant changes is dealing with changing revenues. And adequacy is up this year, but not as much as certain other revenues are down. You also have some changes that are made at the board level in terms of staffing requirements for special ed programs have had a significant impact on the budget this year. And there were some other articles that were each voted on individually at the district meeting. One being, an example would be the school resource officer. Another example would be the covering on the roof. And so it's really a cumulative effect, if you will, of the spending that was proposed and adopted, combined with the available revenues driving the tax rate.
Okay, well, the thing is, the way this is going, it's unsustainable. I mean, I don't know how many of you live in Plymouth so that it affected your taxes, but if you live here, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm just hoping that every year it isn't going to do, every 6 months, it's not going to do the same thing, because mine went up over $600 just for 6 months. And that's just mine, and we have a very small little home. So I don't know what we can do. We have to educate these children, but I don't know what we can do to make it so people can be able to stay in their homes. We'd like to stay here in Plymouth. I really would. And my husband keeps threatening to sell that house. And I just feel like I had to come here to ask you whatever you can do, whatever grants you can get, because there's a lot of people like me that probably won't be here to tell you, but that it's really hard for us to keep up with these high taxes. And like I said, I went to the high school. I figure if nobody says anything, everybody's gonna say, people are fine with this. They've got money enough because they're not complaining, but we don't. So, and I wish I had some answers for you. The only thing I could think of was I know with special ed and everything, I don't know if there should be money coming from the federal part, because I do understand that a lot of these things are put to you that you have to do this, you have to do that, and then do they offer to help money-wise? No. So that's one of the things that I don't know, who to write to or whatever, but.
Yeah, some of the unfunded mandates are quite significant.
They are, and I think there should be some, and in the past there has been help with it. And then all of a sudden they said, no, we're not, the state isn't helping, nobody's helping.
Yeah. It's supposed to be funded at 100% for some of our out-of-district students. And right now, we're recouping about 60%. There's a huge overhaul in Medicaid reimbursements. We won't be getting that as revenue. There's kind of a 2-year stopgap with adequacy to help districts, but that's done after this next budget cycle. And then hopefully, I know the state is looking at revising the educational funding because it is not sustainable for many of our communities.
Well, who exactly, I'm just trying to figure out somebody that I could write to. I mean, I know your senators and all that, but somebody that really will listen. Have any ideas on that?
Well, Guida is your representative here. He's
Yes,
the
I
one
know.
who is pretty active down at the State House. So he would be the one. He lives in Wentworth or Warren. Is he a Warren resident? So he is someone to look at as far as that, because he is pretty active.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to do that, but, yeah, I know it's hard to work with things, when they tell you you've got to do it. But there again, it's hard to, after a while, where do you get your money?
Right.
You know? So I'm not really here to complain, maybe. But just to say, this, it can't go on somehow. So I'm just begging.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're aware.
Help us.
Oh, yeah.
We all are Plymouth residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know.
Know exactly.
Yes,
So anyway, I just, that's what I was here for.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
We want
coming
you to
in
stay in
say
Plymouth if that
Yeah.
works for you and your family. Our goal is not to drive anybody out of town, right? That's really
I know
what we're
that.
trying to do.
Yeah.
But, facts are facts, and
Indeed.
money is money, and, you don't pay your taxes, they're gonna throw you out of your house anyway. Okay, well, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for bringing your concerns up.
Hi, Jenny.
I said thank you for bringing your concerns to us.
Oh.
Yes,
I would just like to say thank you as well for listening to us every month where we raise our concerns for the reading specialist and the warrant articles. Also, can I get a list of the warrant articles at the end? Or is that?
It's a draft for the board, but once we revise everything, we'll post the draft to the website.
Okay.
Okay, that works, just because it's all,
Yeah, I
it's
just,
pretty.
the reporter to the select board.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
know if I could report that we.
I can give her a draft. I
Yeah.
understand that there's.
Oh, yeah,
I don't mind giving you a
Very
draft.
clear that it's a draft. I just
Yeah.
don't know if I can have a list.
Yeah.
Because
I
I
give
missed
you
the first few.
I can give you a plain draft, sure.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So thank you.
Yep.
yes, Anne.
If I could request, I know I have trouble hearing, so I'm missing half of what you guys are saying. I don't know if anybody else is struggling, but if we could, not that you guys won't be mind, I'm sorry, but, or just, I can't hear some of the discussion and I'd really like to be part of it. So if we could configure or look at some amplification system, I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Because I really appreciate what you guys have to say.
We'll work on enunciation.
Yes.
And
yelling.
projection.
And I'm gonna just ask Julie to borrow one of those Bluetooth, like the
Get one
classroom
of those
teachers
big
use.
megaphones
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
Well,
usually
who set up the
used to.
chairs? Last month they were close.
I know, they were closer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Pull up.
Put the heck
That's not our
in.
fault.
All right.
I wonder if the board is at all concerned about the change in the university policy that began this year where only 21-year-olds can live off campus. I know that there are a lot of houses off-campus houses that weren't filled this year, and I wonder if next year you're anticipating that there will be a lot of, that they'll fill them with families perhaps, and that could increase class size numbers and special ed needs.
It could.
We are aware of the potential.
Has that happened in the past? I think that it kind of goes back and forth. Right?
Yeah, we've already started, we have seen the impact of that already. So more immediately, yeah. Yeah. And I think you see some of that in this year's budget. Brett, would you agree?
So I guess I'm concerned about making the new teaching position a warrant article because of the potential that it could not be voted for. And in that case, there would be no extra teacher, no reading specialist, there would be no fallback if class sizes continue to increase. I know that, it's never happened that a warrant article hasn't passed. Potential there, especially because this past year taxes were so high and people might not want to be voting for, more increases. So I wonder if it might make more sense to put it in the budget.
Like we spoke about earlier, is that if it's in the actual budget and we don't use those funds, then they could be taken up for higher costs. Like this year, we had the funds and we had to higher ed, special ed costs that went up. So we had to use those funds allocated and they were, taken for that. So if it's on a warrant article, from what I understand, that those funds are set aside for that specifically and they can't be taken out. So it's better, honestly, to be in a warrant article. You have more likelihood of it getting passed in a warrant article than you do in the regular budget.
And then it becomes part of.
And then it becomes part of budget the following year.
Yeah.
So.
I just had a question. The reading specialist. Now, we're talking about grade school children that are having a problem reading. What is it they can do that a regular teacher can't do as far as teaching them reading? I just have no idea. I know there must be something magical they've got going there, but what do they do?
So reading specialists typically help with aligning curriculum. They oversee, they collect and respond to student data as far as providing interventions for students in reading and literacy. They can help with a coaching model for teachers or paraprofessionals to help with that as well. But they do, many teachers can do the same. A reading specialist is a master's degree reading specialist endorsed certification. So that's the difference.
Yes, and there's a big difference in what they get paid, so I'm just thinking in my mind, more bang for the buck here. If a regular teacher can do this, unless it's one of those things where legally they're telling you you've got to have this highly educated teacher to teach grade school reading, I know I wouldn't vote for it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
One other thing is, so when are we going to make a decision that we want a teacher or, if it passed, a reading specialist or a teacher? Because when contracts come out for teachers, they only have so many days to pass in their contract. So if we're looking for that master degree reading specialist, they will have already had a job if we're waiting until June, July to make a decision on hiring one or the other. So what's the plan?
If there's that flexibility in the warrant article, that's
so there's a huge downfall. because
But you would have to wait for
necessarily get the
numbers
same
to make a
qual.
decision on that.
But if we don't have an influx and that goes into the regular budget, we risk that money being put towards something else and not another teacher,
Right.
not a reading specialist, and we lose it altogether.
Or do you post it as a reading specialist, keep the article the way it is, post it as a reading specialist as soon as the warrant article is passed, and if they are have a master's degree and stuff, they can be a regular classroom teacher, so that decision can be made later on in the school, at the end of
That's
the
also an
summer.
option. Yep.
It's not an easy decision.
All right.
It's good to have both sides
Yeah.
here tonight.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Going to go into non-public. Someone want to make a motion?
I will move to go into non-public.
All right. Someone want a second? Kelly, second. All in favor?
We're
Going
moving to go to
non-public?
non-public
Going to
session.
move into non-public.
We need a narrator, apparently, is what we really need.
Thank
All right.
you.